I'm sorry, Mom. I was always told I was good. I have an awesome family that loves me so much, and I was thrilled it was getting even bigger. A new sister was going to be added to the family. Once I was told of my new duties, I made sure to help Mom around the house more, just being there anytime I could be of assistance, like picking up things she dropped. I know that pregnancy can make people funny and lash out when they don't mean it, so I just kept my head down when the anger was thrown my way. Dad tried to comfort me whenever it happened. He always seemed to get more and more upset every time they spoke about me. They tried to close the door so I wouldn't come in, but I would hear my name come up and all the ways I was a problem. Mom suddenly had a lot of grievances against me. I always tried to be good. I just mess up a little, like getting underfoot when playing jumping on the couch when I was excited, or breaking a toy. Then, I accidentally tripped Mom. She fell and started crying, holding her stomach where my sister was. I tried to apologize, but I was met with anger I'd never seen from her before. Dad wasn't home and I tried to run away as she yelled at me. She caught me though. I thought I would get a normal time out without dinner like the last few times, but instead, she dragged me outside and to the car. I was crying. I didn't know where she was taking me. Eventually, she took me to a strange building. She spoke to someone there and suddenly a man came out and grabbed me. I tried my best to cry for Mom to save me, that I was sorry. I struggled to get free and run into her arms, but it was too late. She walked away. She didn't even turn back to look at me. All I could do was sit on the floor and cry. Eventually, I looked at the stranger. He had a sad expression as he led me away. I'm sorry, I'm sure you're a good girl, the man tried to comfort me. Some people just can't handle dogs once a child comes around. I hope you find a new family before the week is up. Space is limited. I resigned myself to my new home as the man locked the cage door behind me. Maybe my next family will love me.
I refuse to believe my brother would kill himself. Can I ask you two something? I said to my father and mother, who looked at each other across the dinner table. What is it, champ? It's about Michael. My father teared up a bit. He was always more sensitive than my mother. Oh honey, my mother said, is everything okay, eh? Why'd he do it? I was the one who found my older brother. It happened 1 week ago today. All I remember was going into the bathroom and seeing blood. So much blood. He seemed happy whenever I hung out with him. My mother walked over and hugged me. Sometimes the people who seem the happiest are the saddest on the inside. His girlfriend just broke up with him, too. Ooh. My father said, wiping his tears. A broken heart can drive a man crazy. I refused to believe it. I got up from the dinner table and went to bed so I didn't have to think about Michael. I woke up in the middle of the night when I felt something wet on my feet. I grabbed my phone, looked under the covers, and turned on the flashlight. There was blood. So much blood. Brother. A voice faintly spoke. I slowly lowered the covers, hands trembling, and my brother was at the end of my bed. His skin was chalky and the color had left his eyes, but it was him. His wrists were still bleeding. I was murdered. He wheezed. Murdered? I could barely speak. I was terrified. Avenge me. He slowly disappeared, fading away like smoke. I immediately took my bloody sheets to the washer. Of course he was murdered. It made so much sense. While my sheets were washing, I took a shower and tried to figure out who could have done this. Then it hit me. His girlfriend just broke up with him. I vowed to get that bitch just like she did my brother. Make it look like a suicide, and get away scot-free. 3 days later I did exactly that. I made it safely home and was feeling euphoric. I had avenged my brother. I was walking to my room when my parents called for me from the living room. Hey, I said nervously, what's up? Surely they didn't know what I just did. How could they? "There's something we need to tell you about your brother," my father said. I swallowed hard. "What?" "Well," my mother said, "we decided we should tell you why he killed himself. Son, your brother saw things. Saw people who weren't there. Apparently, it runs in the family. The older he got, the worse it got for him, and eventually he couldn't take it anymore." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because one day you might start seeing things, too. Seeing people that aren't there. Telling you horrible things, lying to you. If that ever happens, you need to tell us immediately, okay?" I stared blankly. "Honey, you haven't seen anything like that, have you?"
I'm starting to regret becoming an artist's model. It began a few nights ago. I was sitting motionless when the instructor's voice cut through the sound of pencils on paper. "I've told you before, do not approach the model." I needed to stay perfectly still, which meant I couldn't turn around to see who she was talking to. Eventually, she told the class she needed to step outside for a moment. Seconds later, I saw a shadow cast from over my shoulder, someone standing behind me. They came so close that I could feel their breath on my neck. I felt incredibly exposed, especially since I couldn't turn to look at them. I was immensely grateful that we were in a room filled with other people. The feel of something cold on my bare skin made me gasp. It was followed by a familiar sound, measuring tape. He leaned in, whispered into my ear, "Your bones are exquisite." The rest of the class murmured around us. It was my first time modeling for this class. The prior models never returned, but we all knew they weren't supposed to touch me. Just as he began to speak again, someone came to my rescue, pulling him away. When the instructor returned, she kicked him out immediately. I was worried he'd cause a scene, but he left without a word. It was only after I heard his steps grow distant and locker open and eventually close down the hall that I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. I thought that would be the end of it. When packing up afterwards, though, I noticed items in my locker were in disarray. One shoe was missing, my phone was shoved in a different pocket of my purse, and my wallet lay open. That night, the texts began. "You inspired me today, Jade." I didn't recognize the phone number, but they clearly knew me. "You're perfect for my project. Together, we're going to create something beautiful." I tried reverse lookup, but it was a virtual number beyond my skill level to track down. It was the creep from art class. I could feel it. The graceful curve of spine and ribs under flesh contrasted against the sharpness of the shoulders. Incredible. I realized he'd likely looked through my wallet at my driver's license. I never even saw his face. I could pass him on the street and never realize it. I look forward to beginning our work together. I decided to stay with a friend. I only left her place once to grab groceries, but as I walked back into her apartment, my phone pinged. "You looked lovely today, Jade." We went to the police, but the name he'd given to the art program is fake. After a day of blissful silence, I hoped he'd moved on. Until he texted again last night. "You really do have such beautiful bones." I hope they find him soon, because I woke up to another text this morning. I can't wait to hold them in my hands. IKEA, an endless labyrinth of despair. You can leave anytime you want. Or that's what you tell yourself so you won't drop to your knees and break down sobbing in the middle of the aisle. That would be the end of you. You've got to keep moving, that much you do know, you've learned it. Otherwise, the staff begin to drift towards you, drawn to you as if an unwritten rule has been broken. When you stay still, you belong to them. You just pray that you don't collapse from exhaustion soon. You've witnessed what happened to the couple that had walked in with you. They were so tired they muttered. They just needed to sit for a moment, rest their eyes. You think they knew the staff were coming for them, but were too far gone to do anything about it. Maybe they didn't even care anymore. Now, every time you pass the sofa section, you see the blood-stained fabric of that frost loaf, and you think of them. You'll have to stop eventually, the staff know it. You walk the showroom, trying to shuffle slowly enough to conserve your strength, but not so much to attract their watchful, hungry eyes. The worst part is that as you continue on your seemingly endless circle, you can see the exit just beyond the lamp section. Each time you pass it, you try to pull yourself away from the others to reach those automated doors. But there is always something that stops you from leaving. Sometimes it's the warm glow of a magnet that draws you in, leaving you powerless to escape it. Other times you find yourself staring, open-mouthed, at the hive-like openings of the endless calyxes stacked upon each other, of which the staff lively move in and out. You see other people walk in and join the circular path, but they can stop to stare, measure, even sit down, and the staff ignore them. You've grown to hate them because they can do something you never will. Leave. You rack your brain, where did you go wrong? Why are they free to go, but not you? Were you simply unlucky? Was it the meatballs? You're getting tired now. It's been days. You aren't even sure how many. You loop past the sofas again, the massive, rust-colored stain on the frost loaf taunts you. You wonder how many more times you'll be able to pass it until you no longer have the energy to do so. Another person gave up yesterday. She simply sank into the soft mattress of a brims and pulled the covers over her head, perhaps so she couldn't see them coming. Maybe she was onto something. You're moving so slowly now that the staff begin trailing you, just a few steps behind. Aware it's almost time, as if they can taste weakness in the air. You see the frost loaf once more. This time you can sense that it'll be your last. Maybe you will sit and rest for a moment, after all.